a sense of accomplishment when I would get a room right, or I could just walk directly to a place without having to ask where it was again. So some small milestone that you can easily do, something tangible, is a great thing to start working on as soon as you get there. Of course, when you are starting a new job, you are also probably meeting a lot of new people, a lot of new people, a lot of new people. That means you have to learn names. Now, learning names, I think that most people think that they're bad at remembering names, but really, it's more just about the intentional focus when somebody tells you your name, and then a couple of tips and tricks to really hammer home that memorization. So, when somebody is introducing themselves to you, we can tend to panic because we're worrying about what we're gonna say, or are they going for a handshake, or what's going on here. But remembering to focus on their name and remembering how bad it feels to forget someone's name can definitely help you. Then after they introduce themselves to you, for me, a lot of people find my name difficult to remember. So if, for example, I'm introducing Thanks for watching.